Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome back to your away day guide. This time we're looking at Cambridge. The first in the series was Accrington Stanley. That's been and gone, and sadly we got beat there. This is now Cambridge, the Ben Moore derby, I'm going to call it, because Ben Moore, Amy, is absolutely bigging this game up. I'm of course joined once again by the Queen of Hearts, Amy Downs. Amy, welcome in. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you. I think I've finally dried off after Accrington. My shoes are genuinely still wet from Saturday. It's ridiculous. Do you know, I considered wearing wellies and I thought, no, don't be a silly Billy. You can't wear wellies. So I should have done, because I would have dried off a lot quicker.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But then to be fair, we did say, didn't we, in the away day guide, you're gonna get wet.
Yeah, we did. We predicted it, didn't we?
So
Not that it was a hard prediction.
Absolutely. Obviously, I just want to quickly recap that this is a new series. We are after suggestions as we go. So if you're watching this live or watching it back on catch up, please do feel free in the comments to suggest anything that you feel we may have missed as an away day guide. Maybe it's a certain element of the away day experience or a story or anything like that. Do please let us know. We have some great comments, Amy, on the first away day. We had Andy McAvoy, loved the new show, fantastic. Jonathan Randall, my first time up there, so a very helpful podcast. Love those.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so really do. Brooklyn, welcome in, my friend. Hello, how are you? Hope you're well. So yeah, if you're watching this live, leave some comments. We are talking about Cambridge, and if you're watching it on catch up, again, this is where we're going to ask you, right, Amy, because we've been discussing this off air, recent visits to Cambridge, and there's not all that many, is there?
Certainly not league or cup games. We tend to play them a lot pre-season friendlies, but they're such nothing games that when I did manage to find some scores from recent friendlies, it's been 0-0, 1-1. Apparently, Wes Houlihan scored against us in the last one that we had, so that's a memory we want to forget, isn't it?
I don't remember.
I don't remember
the last one. When was that? Have I had a bang on the head?
Last summer, I think. From what I could tell, but
did Flynn Downs got sent off in the last pre-season friendly of the season, wasn't it? And he got sent off, and I think Lambert said, "That's the devilment in him. You can't take it out." Terrible accent. Do apologise to any of our Scottish friends, and there are a few that watch us. But it kind of indicates how tin pot, and it is tin pot, this fixture is, and how far we have fallen, because this is the last 5 against Cambridge, Amy. And as you can see, one of these is before I was even born. How old were you in 1986, if you don't mind me asking?
I would have been 2.5 at that point.
So you're still in nappies. I'm not even born. And then the last 4 are all within the 3 or 4 year period after that. It's almost worthless me asking this question, but I'll ask it anyway. Any memories of these games?
From the friendlies, I definitely do, because that was actually my first ever game, was Cambridge away in James has just discovered the chocolate I had hidden to distract him. I had it hidden under the laptop and he knew exactly where it was. So my first ever Ipswich game, I think, was the 94-95 pre-season friendly, and we lost 3-1. Now my dad took me to sit in the family stand, which was in the home end, and we were losing 1-0 at half time, and then I didn't realise, because I was only like 10, that we'd swapped ends at half time. So when Cambridge scored again after the break, I jumped up to cheer because everybody else did, and my dad's like tugging me down because obviously it wasn't us. So that was my first ever game. Great memories of that one, and sort of like the way my life went then, because my dad used to take me to games and we used to love evening games. That was an evening friendly, that one. And then well remembered Turbotic. That's brilliant.
Good shout.
And then the following year we beat them 2-0. In a pre-season friendly, and it was the first time I ever got to meet Matt Holland, so that was a very, very special time.
But that's stuck in the mind, isn't it?
Oh, just a little bit. From that point on, I was hooked on the man.
Matt Holland still owes me a games console. I'm just going to throw that out there. I've got it in written proof. Club source says that I'm sure Matt Holland will reward the fan in some way. I didn't get anything. Anyway. It's a tin pot fixture, as I've said. So if you've got any memories, if you're watching this live or watching it back, most of you will be watching it back, do drop in the comment section any memories you've got of going to Cambridge, going to the Abbey. We'd love to read them. We'll read them out on next week's show. We'd love to obviously see them. We'll try and respond to as many as we can if you do drop them in. But you put the call to arms out on social media. What did the ITFC fan faithful come back with? What sort of stories we got this week?
We've got lots of brilliant suggestions of places to go, so I will definitely cover those in a bit. But I did, I loved Rich, our very own Crunch,
the Crunch.
Shared with us that his first away game was in 1991, in the 91 to 92 season. He went with his. Yeah, apparently so. What's that? That's 30 years ago, isn't it? As you were just saying, we will have been in nappies. I would try to remember which of those on your graphic, which one that was. I wonder what the score was. I can show you again.
Day. There we go. Which one of those?
He was 91 to 92.
Oh, okay. So 1-1.
Yeah.
So he's never seen us win at the Abbey then, or was that his first? Did you say it was his first or only?
That was his first. That was his first away game. So his first ever away game was there. He stood in the corner. Milton scored for Ipswich apparently, and Mick Heathcott for the U's. So thank you for sharing that memory, Crunch, because as we say, it's been really hard to try and find out the scores, but I always find that what I really want to hear is the stories and what people are enjoying, you know, what special memories. Like we say about away days, it's about the day out, isn't it? It's about the experience, not just the score.
It is, and this is what makes this one just a little bit more difficult. Obviously, it was such a long time ago. You know, that even the last goal scorer to score in a competitive game against Cambridge would be quite a unique answer, because if you think about it, it's in 1993. So who is that going to be? That could be Mason, that could be Milton, that could be it could be Goddard even. I don't know, but like I'm just saying names from that era. You know, whereas most games you can quite honestly say, oh well, you know, Murphy or Stead or it's the only fixture really, and this is why they're bigging it up, because Ben Moore goes to college with a few Cambridge fans, and he's really sort of a bit nervous about it. This is why they're kind of bigging it up, isn't it? Because it's a real big game to them. The GOAT was there,
but I think for what it's worth, I think that it's worth giving them credit for where they are now and how long it's taken them to get to that point. Because I remember when I still lived there, the problems they had with the club coming close to going under, and they've been through some torrid times, and now they seem to be building back up again, and that's really exciting and lovely. And I suspect there are a lot of fellow Ipswich fans who, like me, have got a soft spot for Cambridge because I lived there for 20 odd years. And I think so. It's kind of like a bit of a derby. I know it's not a proper derby because it's not Norwich, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like a nice friendly derby, isn't it? It'll be who gets the bragging rights at work the next day and things like that. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. Don't misplace my Ipswich Town favoritism and saying tin pot for. I have a soft spot for Cambridge as a whole. I think it's a lovely city. I used to love going punting when I could, and I just think Cambridge. But there's always been the little cousin, in my opinion. The little cousin that's down the road, plucky little Scrappy Doo. But now Scrappy Doo is suddenly as big as Scooby Doo. And I don't like it. And do you know what I mean? And to think that sort of
feeling bitter.
We've got it's more about how far we've fallen than do you know what I mean? In my perspective, Metal Chase, welcome in. New names to the chat.
John Beck is a great shout.
Absolutely,
very popular down there.
Yeah, and then Dion Dublin might have played too. Colin, you 1992, you went. Any stories? Drop some stories in the chat if you've got any stories of your visit to.
Was Colin at the same game as Crunch all those years ago? That's what I'd like to know. How funny would that be?
Good shout. We've got Turbotic, the Jack Lancaster Derby.
Yeah, very true.
I
wonder who his dad will be supporting on the day.
Good question, Stephen. If you're watching
we'll
this,
ask him.
Let us know under a false name. who will you be supporting? Amy, you said you lived in Cambridge, and obviously this is a game you look out for when the fixtures came out, and you desperately wanted to go to. It's got some really emotional attachments to it. If you have to and you're comfortable to, just sort of tell the people at home the emotional attachments and why this game to yourself is so big and important in your life.
Yeah, of course. Well, I was born in Ipswich, and we moved to Cambridge when I was about 8 for my dad's job. So I grew up there. I lived there for 20 years before I then ended up going to uni and moving up here. So absolutely, that in itself is why this fixture is so special to me, because living so far away now, I get to go down, and I've booked a B&B to stay overnight, and we're going to have got so many plans for the night. I'm really excited. But when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I used to work at Tesco's in Fulbourn on the edge of Cambridge. And I had a really good friend who lived there, who worked there as well. And he was a massive Cambridge fan. And if I remember right, he came with me to that first Man U game that we had, the first first home game of the Premier League, when we Fabian Wilnis scored.
Yep.
And we'd literally only just sat down, having just about made it after work to Portman Road. But in return, Marcus used to take me to the Abbey on a Tuesday night if we weren't playing. We had the odd cup game on a Saturday where I'd go along with him because it was easier to get to those games. And I loved it. I used to love going with him. I used to go and sit in the club bar with him, and everybody would be giving me all the Ipswich Cambridge banter, and it was all good fun. And unfortunately, Marcus passed away about 5 years ago. He had cancer. He was about 5 years older than me, so at the time he was in his mid-30s. Incredible lad, massive Cambridge fan, well known, well loved among that group of fans. In fact, Cambridge fan that I'm hoping to chat to before the game, we bumped into each other at Leeds train station, and he'd been to a Cambridge away game and I'd been 1 to ours, and we got talking and we both knew Marcus, and it was just incredible. But yeah, Marcus is someone who is very, very special to me. So going back to the Abbey without him is going to be very strange, because I know that is one that I would have, without a doubt, I would have been there with him. Before game, after game, seeing him for the whole weekend, I would have loved it. So yeah, it's a bit of a special one for me, and that was because of that. My mate Brett, who is a gold ticket season ticket holder, gold member, as soon as the fixture list came out, he said to me, "Amy, you can have my Cambridge ticket. It's absolutely fine." So I took it as him being kind, but maybe he was preempting how awful we were going to
be. No, that is a virtual round of applause for that man there. Well done. That is absolutely a good token. Now, you obviously put the call out to arms for stories. You mentioned the Cruncher. Have you got any other stories from the faithful?
Past ones, it's been quite quiet, except for there's been lots of people who say they live there, they work there. So there's lots, as I know from having lived down there myself, there's lots of Ipswich fans who live in the area. Wow. But what we have had, like I say, is loads and loads of tips for when we get there. And possibly the most repeated story, which I've really enjoyed, is the walk. If you walk from the station to the ground, you will undoubtedly go over a field, which is something. I think it's Coldham's Common, and it's a cow field. So you are literally dodging cowpats on your way to the ground, which back in the day when it was a tiny stadium, you thought, oh my God, where on earth am I walking to? But these days it kind of looms out. No, don't shut the laptop. I think you're being funny. No. Yeah, so the ground kind of appears out in the background and across this big field, and it's lovely. So it's that I thought that really made me laugh, that was a fond memory that so many Ipswich fans have of walking through cowpats on the way to Cambridge United.
Absolutely. Sega Zombie. I remember going to Cambridge in the mid-80s, first time I'd seen Town away, and it was then I realised how massive a club Ipswich was as I see in Cambridge Stadium, about 10 years old. Connie got soaked up the allotment end a few times, but now it's got seats up there now. Yeah. For those new to the series, with the categories we've got left are stadium, parking and trains or buses, and pubs. If you want to add a category at any point, guys and girls at home, suggest it in the comments. We're open to it. We want to make this a show that you really get value from and you use as a bit of an away day Bible, if you like, before you head out. Amy, on those 3/4 categories, where do you want to head now? Stadium? Do you want to head back to that stadium? Is it still called the Abbey?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. As far as I know, gosh, do you know what? I didn't even check that, because I would have thought that just is how it is. It's off Newmarket Road. It's easy to find. My memories of it are from standing in the terrace end with Marcus. Really, it's still tiny, Colin says, which is funny because with the new away stand, it feels like it. I mean, not having been there myself for years, but it feels like it looks a lot bigger bigger now, but it isn't actually when you look at what we're used to, obviously. But is it bigger or smaller than Accrington? I'd be interested to know.
Do you know what? I've never actually, as the last 5 have shown you, I've never actually been to Cambridge. So this will be my first time going. Looking forward to it. I've driven past it a couple of times. It's quite a small plus space. But before we come to sort of how we get there in terms of parking, trains, and buses, it would only be the correct thing for me to do is to say, let's hear from one of our partners.
Ipswich Buses, your local bus company serving your football team. Buses run every 10 minutes. Avoid the traffic. Don't get stuck in the delay. Get Ipswich Buses today. A single £1.20, a return only £2. Find out more information at www.ipswichbuses.co.uk. Ipswich Buses, proud to partner with Talk in Town.
And don't forget, hit subscribe if you're new here. We've hit the 3,000 mark. We're now on the march to 4,000. So, parking, trains, buses. How do people get there, Amy? Talk to me about that.
So, one of the main suggestions that I've had about parking, if you're driving, don't try and get into the city centre. It is not worth it. It will take you flipping hours. It's Newmarket Road after a game is the same as Norwich Road is after trying to get out of Portman Road. So as you come off the A14, you will go over a big roundabout, which turns left to Cherry Hinton, by the way. That's where I used to live. But if you go straight over it, you're alongside the airport, and on your right hand side there is a park and ride there. I'm told from several people on Twitter that costs you just £3 for a return, and it's actually not too far to walk if the traffic's busy afterwards and you just want to get back to your car and try and get ahead of it. It's only Gary on Twitter said that it's about a 20-30 minute walk back, so park and ride's a great option.
I've used it for shopping. The park and ride around Cambridge in general is just fantastic. So yeah, we'll recommend that one.
I think if you're coming from that direction, that's definitely what I would do. A friend of mine who lives that direction, she also said that around the Abbey swimming pool on the street roads around there is normally quite a good option for where to park. She takes her son most weeks. So her little boy Casey is an Ipswich and a Cambridge fan. So he's not really sure what he's going to do on Saturday, but I've told her what to do if he doesn't go for Ipswich.
He'll be dunked in the pool. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. So around the pool, perfect. Because it's a sellout, isn't it? Cambridge have sold out. They've come to see the Ipswich. So it is a sellout. So it will be busier than perhaps normal. So if you are looking to park around the stadium or such places, it's get there early, isn't it? Really, that's the key.
Yeah, I would have said so. Yeah, definitely. And be prepared for a bit of a wait to come back out afterwards.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine.
I've just given James this because I've run out of all his leftover from the wedding, and he's just got both hands in the jar.
Well, don't worry. We've only got 5 or 10 minutes left. He hopefully won't gone through the whole jar.
The whole thing before the end.
Very quickly, the train situation then, obviously. What is that like? It's not a main train line from here, so it can't be a main train line to Cambridge from Ipswich. It's got to
I believe there is one main line. It might even be the one that's on the way to London, but I don't want to. There definitely is one main train, but Cambridge train station is right in the city centre, but it's not actually in the city centre. So it's a bit of an awkward place. So if you're going by train, you've got two options. You either get the bus or walk into town, which will probably take you about 20 minutes, half an hour. And then you've got to double back on yourself to get to the ground, which I would probably suggest getting a taxi. There are great pubs in town, highly recommend, and I would never normally do this given the boss's behaviour over recent years, but Wetherspoons in Cambridge is an absolute must visit. It's a former theatre. And in fact it's still got a cinema upstairs, or at least it did when I lived there, and it is or was when I was 16 and was in there when I first started going there, it was the biggest Wetherspoons in Europe. So it is huge. It's always good fun. They always have like music and stuff on in the evenings as well. So if you are going into town, I like that pub. I also really like the King Street Run, which I'm hoping is still standing, because I will be heading back there for anybody who is prefers, like, I don't want to say old man's pub, but it is a bit more of a like rockers pub type thing. Yeah, real ale. There we go. That's the way we're going. That's the perfect
real
way.
Ale. On the camera list, probably.
Yeah,
probably is. Metal Jace, born in Cambridge, lived in and around there my whole life. Bo Robson was my manager when I was a kid, so I chose him as my team because ITFC won everything. Ryan, who's a university student in Cambridge, I Ryan, what are you doing at the University of Cambridge? I've been to quite a few Cambridge games. The road outside the ground after the game will be slow. Traffic for a good hour or so, be a decent wait for the buses to the train station. So if you are, just come by and watch the post-game show being
Absolutely.
live in front of your face. You can watch us dissect an away game live in person. You can get involved if you want to, or you can watch. Many people do. Colin says only one team in East Anglia. Metal Chase says there's 2 train stations in Cambridge now. But, if you are going by Cambridge, don't forget away day beers. Get a few for the train. Hoppy Robson, celebrate the good times. Let the good times roll. Awaydaybeers.com. ITFC Fantasy Packs, $14.99. Talking of which, that brings us nicely onto pubs. What have
My
we got?
favourite part of the show.
Absolutely. What have we got? Where are we heading then, Mrs. Downs?
So if I was coming in by train to the main station, Ryan, whoever it was that just said that, is absolutely right. There is apparently now Cambridge North, which is a bit closer to the ground, so that might be easier. But if you get off at the main Cambridge station, you want to cut through to Mill Road. Apparently it's down York Street onto Mill Road, and that is where you will find quite a lot of pubs. Mill Road is where we've booked our B&B actually, which is quite handy because it's where all the pubs are. That worked out quite well. But yeah, Rob on Twitter says that if you are going down Mill Road, Cambridge Blue is a must for the pubs.
Okay. Yeah.
Mikey from Facebook recommends Empress, Cowbellies, and the Alex. Of also the Royal something. The Royal Stand, the Royal State, there might have been the Royal Station has been recommended for nice Greek food, which I'm quite excited about.
I love Greek food.
Me
Stuff
too.
my leaves for a win. Love Greek food. Honestly, one of my dreams as a kid was to open my own Greek taverna and run my own Greek restaurant. Honestly, I did my whole business diploma on opening a Greek restaurant. Love Greek food.
There are not enough good ones around, I reckon. So, and actually, the place that has been recommended, I remember going there for a 16th birthday party disco, and I would never have returned there in a month of Sundays. So actually, I'm quite excited about going, and it's well close to where we're staying. I'm also aiming for a pub called The Brook, which is right at the bottom of Mill Road, and I know is popular with Cambridge fans, so I'm really looking forward to going there. And so that'll be on your way to the ground. You walk through Mill Road, you head for Coldham's Lane, you'll get to Coldham's Common, you walk through the cowpats, and you'll be at the ground. So it's not too. If you want to stop there for a few, you'd probably be all right leaving at 2:30 and getting to the ground in plenty of time.
And of course, being a university student, a university city as it is, you will have the pick of pubs and the nightlife, because it is obviously the start of term, should be pretty good on a Saturday night. So if you are up for going out on a Saturday night, there's going to be probably a great atmosphere, particularly if Town have won. It's a great city. It's full of bars and just full of sort of vibrancy life, I'm going to call it. I think, Amy, just, that sort of buzz.
There's a reason I like a good night out, and I'm pretty sure it's because I spent most of my life there.
It's a great university city with 2 universities, so it's going to be, it's one of those places in the UK, perhaps not like Newcastle, but a good night out. Before we do go, we'll just look at, and obviously this doesn't take into account this weekend, but their last 5 games, 1 win, 2 draws, 2 defeats. They've not been particularly good at home. Lost 5-1 to Lincoln at home. They drew 2-2 with Fleetwood at home. There's also one result there that I'm missing. I think it was a home game. Their recent result was a 2-2 with Crewe. Again, if you're watching this after the weekend coming up, won't have that. But does that give you a little bit of hope? Their home form isn't as great, and we could maybe rock up and get a win?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? And didn't I think one of the results in their previous recent games as well, they lost to Gillingham. So given
that'll be it. That's the one I'm missing. Gillingham, yes.
That in itself gives me a little bit of confidence. Do you know what I mean? But I was fairly confident about Accrington. I can't remember if I was or not. I think the sulking since then has taken over any positivity I had.
You were. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly for those that are watching. There is the artwork on Photoshop. As you can see, Lincoln 5-1 defeat at home, Portsmouth 2-1 defeat away, Fleetwood 2-2 at home. Gillingham was the game I was missing, 2-0 at home, and then Crewe away. So if ever a time Town could maybe get an away win, Amy, maybe this is it, because they're not great at home, and they shouldn't be troubling us.
Agreed. Part of me, under normal circumstances, I'd probably say, but we need to give them a bit of respect. They're doing better than us. They're higher in the league than us. But recent form, we've won more times than them. I think. I think we've won 3 out of the last 5. No, we can't have done 2 out of the last 5, isn't it? Anyway, we seem to be in better form than them, which is pretty hard to achieve. And normally, I would say I'd give them a bit of respect, but I think we gave Accrington too much respect. So I'd rather just see us coming out. And I want to see, I know we've still got this weekend first, but I want to see us saying, right, no more are we letting these little clubs, I know you can't see me, but I am doing inverted commas before anybody argues at me.
She's lying. She is.
You're going to get me grief on Twitter. But
Never.
These smaller clubs who we would expect to be around about where they are in the league at the end of the season. Let's be honest, none of us want us to be there at the end of the season, do we? But
no. Hello, mate. How are you? I just put those last 5 on the screen just really because I wanted to say, unlike previous last 5s, you can't take any of these really into effect because it's so long ago. Not a single player who played or even probably managed in those games are even still in the game, probably. So
exactly,
it is what it is. But anyway, this is the away day guide for Cambridge. We're done. We're dusted. It's been great to have the live interaction from the chat. As I said earlier, any suggestions for this series, I'm open to them. And I know Amy's more than open to ideas and where we can take it. And also, don't forget your stories. If you've got any stories of Cambridge, drop them in the comments. We'll reply to every single one. We'll try and read some out on next week's show. I suppose the only thing left to do, really, Amy, before we play the outro, is a score prediction. I know we've got this weekend's game. Cambridge aren't playing this weekend, so that won't affect it. But what's your heart telling you here? What's the score going to be?
Right. I'm going to go bold, seeing as you always ask us to. And because I know the goat's watching and he doesn't, he wants me to try and be more positive. So I'm going to go with, I want to see a 3-0 win in front of a packed out away stand. I reckon maybe like a bit more 3-1, 3-2. No, I'm going to go 3-0. I want it to be a clean sheet. I want us to start proving that we deserve to be at the other end of this league. We need to tip this table up on its arse now.
I like to be bold, as you say. So I want you to look directly in the camera and say, I, Amy Downs, think the score is going to be 3-0 to Ipswich Town. Over to you.
I, Tractor Girl Amy, think that the score with Ipswich Cambridge is going to be Cambridge 0, Ipswich 3. I'm going to go with a Bon hat trick.